Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar presentation, Outdoor Learning in the Library. It's Only Natural. I'm Jamie Machek, and I'm the Education Consultant for the Wisconsin Valley Library Service, and we're really happy to have you here today. Presenting this webinar is Susan Bednars, and she is the Branch Programming Specialist, and Lori Hugley, and Lori is the head of the KHCPL branches, and they are both with the Kokomo-Howard County Public Library in Kokomo, Indiana. And according to my map, Kokomo is about 60 miles north of Indianapolis. So that just to give you an idea of where they're coming from. And I'm sure they'll tell you a little bit more about their communities and their library when they start talking. So Lori and Susan, whenever you're ready, please begin.
Thank you. This is Lori speaking. Go ahead.
And hi, this is Susan.
We are with the Kokomo-Howard County Public Library, and you are correct, we're about 60 miles north of Indianapolis. Our library system is the main library in our downtown community. We have a branch on the south side, and then the Rusheville branch, which is where our outdoor classroom is in a very small community. Originally, the land was donated to build the building on. We have a lot of community involvement, but it is a small branch. Doesn't see a huge traffic, but the people that come are very dedicated to the library, and it's very important to the community. When we built the library, we had the library, a parking lot, and then we actually purchased another lot. It's in a small subdivision. And we bought that lot thinking of expansion of the library if we ever needed additional parking. So we've had this extra lot for quite a while. And it just was a green grass. There was nothing built on it. We had no real plans at this point. A couple years ago, Trina, who's not here today, and I were lucky enough to go to Denver, Colorado for some training on another project that we had going on. And while we were there, we visited the Wright Farms Library, which is a part of the Anythink library system in Colorado. And they had a beautiful, I believe it's a couple-acre outdoor classroom that was just magnificent. And Trina's a big thinker, idea person, and we're like, well, wouldn't this be great? Where would we do it? And we just kind of thought, and kind of put it on the back burner. We came home, and a few months later, the Rusheville branch was lucky enough to get a $13,000 endowment from a couple that had passed away, and the stipulation was that it had to be spent at our Rusheville library and had to be spent on children's programming. So that sort of got the ball rolling again. What could we do with this money that would be a permanent fixture? We didn't want to nickel and dime it away. We wanted something lasting. And again, Trina came back with, hey, why don't we do an outdoor classroom? And we thought, yeah, this is great. And so she started exploring what this outdoor classroom would cost. She knew somebody that owned a local landscaping business. So she went to her, they developed the plan, the idea, and came back with what was an $80,000 project. So we both kind of went, wow, this, how can we make this happen? We're a lot of money short, and we know our library doesn't necessarily have the kind of funds to support that at the branch, at this particular branch. But that did not stop us. We went to the library board. We showed them the plans. We talked about what did we want to do, how we had the initial $13. And the board didn't say, yes, we will do this, but they said, yes, go ahead and explore the ideas, start coming up with, grants we can write and donations we can get, and let's see if we can make this happen. So that's sort of where it started from. We decided to go with the Nature Explore Outdoor Classroom because we wanted validity. We knew that they had done the research. Dimensions Foundation had done the research. We knew that when it came time to do grants, that we would have the background, the backing of that research. We wanted it to, to not just be a playground. We wanted to have the educational background, and that's why we chose to go with the Nature Explore Outdoor Classroom, and why it was important to us to have it certified. Oh, also, and initially the Arbor Day Foundation was part of the Nature Explore Outdoor Classroom along with the Dimensions, but I know since then they may not be as involved because they're not as involved on their website. But Rusheville is part of Tree City USA, which is a Arbor Day foundation. So that helped when solidify why we chose them. You want to talk about that classroom?
Some of the certification requirements are you have to have a well-developed outdoor space. They like to approve your plans. It's required that the staff get some kind of training. So I went to a Nature Explorer workshop that was part of the Indiana State Early Education Conference that happens every year. And there has to be some family involvement and people in the community that are expressing a need or passionate about your program as well. So we were able to get all of those requirements met, and we became certified. As part of the certification requirements also require that your plan have a music area, a movement space, a nature art area, a building area, a climbing area, a messy materials area, a gardening area, a water feature, and a gathering area. So those requirements helped us to make our landscaping plan. And we also have a storage shed in the area.
When we started talking about wanting this outdoor classroom and how we were going to, really sell it to the town and sell it to the community, it was very important, that we had the backing of our board and whatnot. So part of our library's mission is to create opportunities for our communities to become its best. And one of our strategies says, we build community-wide loyalty and aspire to become a local destination. And one of the goals is to develop our green spaces as a community destination. So this certainly fit the library's, mission statement, our strategies, and certainly was one of our goals. So that certainly helped us sell it to our board. The community, again, in Rushville, it's a very small town. We went to the town board meetings. The town didn't give us money to build this, but we certainly had their backing. They were very excited. They helped get the community excited about it. So we did have a lot of community buy-in for the project. And again, Rushville is part of the Tree City USA, which is an Arbor Day foundation, and Rushville as a community participates very largely in Arbor Day.
So this slide shows how the community responded. They loved it. They added, it would add value to the library. We have a parent who drives 9 miles just to come to our branch of the library. And so we've had a lot of positive support for that. Going to the
and then the next one. What was our process? Again, Trina met with someone she knows, and the sketch on this slide was actually her initial rendering of how we saw this piece of property. The entryway, we have beautiful wrought iron gates that they designed, and it's a walking path, and in each path there's different areas that were part of the requirements. We have an underground tunnel, we have a rock climbing wall, we've got logs and things they can climb on. We have a pavilion for gathering. We had our local career center. Our high school has a career center, and the career center actually made the musical instruments for the area. We've got a little building area where we have, the tree cookies and the logs and things like that. The messy area consists of a sandbox and a water feature. The art area is, we have a plexiglass thing, and they can paint on it, and it's clear so they can see the nature and paint the nature. So these were sort of the things that we had. We met with our landscaper. We came up with a vision. We talked to our landscaper a lot about wanting to bring the cost of the $80,000 project way, 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 way down. So she was excellent in working with volunteers. So every time we had a group of volunteers come out and do the labor, her cost went way down. And I can't say enough about that. You've got to find someone that's willing to work with you. We had lots of volunteer groups that came out and helped, and that did really lower our cost.
That's in the next slide.
Yeah. We did the design and the construction in different phases. The first thing we did was build the pavilion, and then just sort of went from there. Once we did get a lot of money secured, the board obviously approved us to go ahead, and then we, like I said, the first step was building the pavilion. Community partners were huge in this because we did not have any library money budgeted for this. The library did spend some, but not $80,000, which was awesome. We did lots of grants. We did a lot of community outreach. Our Master Gardeners group came out and helped. We have a General, it's Delco now, isn't it? GM Cares. We have a group, they came out and did a project. We had Lowe's. They have a Lowe's team that you can get people to come from Lowe's and do. Kohls has a group of volunteers that will come out. So we literally searched all of these small grants and type of organizations that would actually send crews out to help. And again, every time they helped, our cost went down. Duke Energy, we got a $10,000 grant from Duke Energy. Our Howard County Commissioners, because it is in the county, they gave us $10,000. Our Friends of the Library gave us money and actually came out and helped. Any local business that we knew that might, had a personal connection to, we asked for money and they gave it to us.
We did change collections.
Oh, we set up a change jar at the gas station in the community, and then we also did the gas station collected $600 in 1 week. We also had the school in that area do a change drive, and it was a contest, and we did that for 1 week and collected quite a bit of money. And these were just little things we were trying to do just to get more cash. And what was kind of slowed us down, in the midst of all of our fundraising, our community was hit by a tornado. So all of our money collection kind of came to a screeching halt. We didn't really have the nerve to ask people for money when they were trying to rebuild a lot of things in the community. So we kind of stopped for a little while, and then just our momentum sort of built back up. So we did have that problem. Any club, group, organization that you can think of that might help, ask them. We had an Eagle Scout. One of his project was to build the rock climbing wall. Lowe's built our shed. I mean, once you can make that connection to some of these groups, they were wonderful. It was just, you had to go into Lowe's probably 30 times to find the right person and to make it happen. But once it did, it was great. Here's just the pictures of just some different volunteers, some different groups. The guy in the red's from Lowe's. I believe the other groups are Master Gardeners. They came out and planted. So you just really have to take advantage of all the community partners you can come up with. You can see in the picture is our pavilion. Thank you. My mind just went completely blank. This picture here is of a sundial. We have a doctor in the area, and he kept, asking us if they could do a sundial. So he laid out the sundial, and then we had an art class come out and paint it. Unfortunately, we had to resurface our parking lot, so this is not there anymore, but we're going to put it back. But anytime your community wants to get involved, they have an idea, be sure to listen, because then they take more ownership and want to be more of a part of it, and they get excited about it. This is, I believe, GM Cares and Kohls Cares. We, again, brought food out, water, donuts, pizza, just everything we could to come out, and people worked. It was muddy, it was raining, but once you got these people out, they would call and say, hey, we've got another day scheduled, can we come out and do something else? So once you get those initial connections, you're golden. Howard County Commissioners gave us $10,000. Luckily, we asked them for this money a couple of weeks before the tornado hit. We kind of held our breath waiting to see if we'd still get the cash, but it did. You ask everyone. One thing I will say, we did a lot of small grants that were quick. They were easy. We had a quick turnaround time. We also did a larger grant that took a lot of planning, a lot of statistics, a lot of information. We didn't get that grant. So really think about how much time you're spending on particular grants to decide whether or not it really is worth the time. Sometimes the $1,000 here and the $1,000 there really adds up. But we were fortunate to get large chunks of money from people. This is the Duke Energy grant. We got almost $10,000 from them. Like I said, our original grant of $13,000 came from an endowment. Not too long after that, we got another $15,000 gift in memory of a teacher in that community that passed away. So we did have, we're able to get some large chunks of money. Stumbling blocks. We had some ideas about a brick fundraiser where you have people buy the bricks and put them down. If we'd have had more time and more thought ahead of time, we might have done that. One of the stumbling blocks is this is in a community. The neighbor directly beside this lot loved the idea of it, but then we put up some barriers thinking that she would appreciate the barrier between her house and the playground, and she actually didn't. So we ended up taking those down. It blocked her view of the driveway, and she said she enjoyed seeing the kids play. So if you've got neighbors in the area, be sure to talk to them, let them know what's going on, get their feedback so that you don't make an enemy of them. We talked about a story walk incorporation, but our actual path was not long enough. The idea was to include a story that you could walk through the path and read along the way, but ours was not big enough. I would say our biggest stumbling block is after it was done, the question was, who's going to upkeep this? We don't have a full-time custodian in that building. We just had somebody who would come in the morning and clean, and then it was like, who was pulling weeds? We had lots of people who said they would volunteer to pull the weeds, but they never showed up. So make sure you have a clear path of who is going to be responsible for the upkeep of the property, and make sure you have money in your budget every year for additional mulch or additional planting, things like that, that we didn't necessarily, we were just so excited and caught up in the process that we didn't think, oh, what's going to happen next year? We're ready for that. This is a musical instrument. This is one of the things that the Career Center built for us. They have a welding class. This is our sandbox, and you can kind of see a little bit more of the outdoor classroom. You can see the rock climbing wall, and then the climbing tree cookies and things like that. There is our tunnel, and the top of the tunnel initially had ivy that was supposed to grow on it. That got trampled, so we gave up on the idea of the ivy, and kids would just rather run up and down it, so we just left them. It wasn't a battle we thought we would ever win.
We mulch it now.
So it has mulch, and that's the end of the ivy. These are the front gates that our landscape architect designed for us and had made. It's a beautiful entryway. When it came time to celebrate, we had a ribbon cutting. We invited the Rusheville Town Board. We invited our library board. We invited all of our donors. Any group that volunteered, we invited the community. So we had a lot of support for our grand opening. We had lots of families come out and play and enjoy it. These are some snacks. We had trail mix we thought was appropriate. We served it in appropriate sand buckets. So we tried to, really carry the theme of the celebration throughout. We had some arts and crafts going on that day too. We obviously had in memory of, we have another rock just like this of the other family to show honor and memory of the people that donated money. One of the big things is updating, and I'll let Susan talk about this project.
So we saw this idea another school had done, and they had all the kids in the school paint rocks to look like fish, and then they made a rock river that looks like a bunch of fish flowing down the river, and it has a storybook that relates to it, the Only One You story, which is a wonderful story about each person's uniqueness. And so during our summer reading program, the first year after we opened our Nature Explore outdoor classroom, we had all the patrons who came to our summer reading kickoff party paint a rock that they could take home and one that they could leave and later try to find in our outdoor classroom. So that's what that's a picture of.
Okay, do you have any questions at this time before we go into programming?
Okay, this is Jamie. Yeah, a few questions did come in, and one of them is, and maybe I missed this. What was the time frame of how long did it take once you broke ground to the completed project to where you are now?
I think it was less than a year, definitely less than a year. I think it started in 2016 and we opened in May of 2017. So, I mean,
it was a fast process. We moved faster than we should have. I will admit that. Trina, who's not here, is a gung-ho, let's plan it today and do it tomorrow. And so we really got ahead of ourselves, which, like I said, had we done it again, we probably would.
Oh, I lost.
It out. We really did. It was a quick thing, and I honestly don't know how we got that much money in that short of time. It was just meant to be, I think.
Okay, great. Can you talk a little bit about the hours of operation? So I know that your winters probably aren't as bad in Indiana as they are in Wisconsin, but is it open during your winter time as well?
Our outdoor classroom is open 24/7. Our library is not. When the library is open, you can actually come into the library and check out one-day use backpacks. And we had that on the list to talk about a little later, but I'll go ahead and touch on those now. We have backpacks that you can check out to enhance your experience. One might have bubbles, one might have digging tools. There's a backpack of art supplies, just all different kinds of activities that you could come in, check out the backpack, and go outside and play and then return it later. When we're closed, you can still use the classroom. It's not gated, it's not locked, it's never closed, and we encourage people to come when we're not open. We obviously have a lot more programming in the summer and the spring and fall, but we do have some winter programming out there, which Susan's going to talk about a little more in the second half, but we try to use it year round. We have a really neat Christmas program we do at winter solstice. It's on winter solstice night that we do. We have a bonfire and we have carolers, and it's really neat. We have a Halloween program we do on Halloween night. So we try to use it more than just summer, but we certainly encourage families to go out there year round.
Great. Okay, that's all the questions for now. So you can continue. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, we'll move on into programming. I'm going to run through some examples of the programs that we do outside, and just want you to keep in mind that really almost anything that you can do inside the library, you can take outside, with the exception of something like a laser show or something like that. You can do story times outside, you can do book discussions outside. So think about just everything that you already do and how you can take it outdoors. We developed a series of programs called Art in Action, and we did a lot of different art programs within that to feature different artists. We had chalk artists come from Georgia and teach the kids how to do chalk drawings. We did featured the artist Calder, and we did some wire art outside. So there's a lot of things that we did. Of course, we painted rocks outside. We had a lot of extra rocks from our fish program, so we continue to use rocks in our programming outdoors. We've also worked with the Girl Scouts locally here, and they have a couple of badges. One is the Outdoor Art Creator Badge. We can definitely provide that experience for them and help them earn their badge. There's another one called Eco Learner, and we're working on also badges about the senses, pottery, space, and home scientist, all great to do outside. Another program I did outdoors was a Book and Boogie program. That's a music and movement program, and that was great to take outdoors and be able to just get wild and crazy and not disturb other patrons inside the library. It's also a great place to utilize your big parachute. You've got plenty of room outdoors. We've done themes that relate to fish, water, sink and float, and that kind of thing, all within our music and movement program. We also have some field trips scheduled. I had a flyer made up that featured 4 different programs for a field trip that could be done with a preschool, kindergarten, early elementary age kids. Those 4 programs, I'll just mention briefly, are Lunch for a Bear, and that's where we children identify kinds of foods that black bears eat, and we create a plate of bear food. We talk about whether a bear could live here, and we talk about bear habitats, and we, of course, go on a bear hunt. Another program that we just did earlier this week is Wiggling Worms, and we brought in live worms. We talked about and observed the earthworms. We dig in the soil. We also incorporated some other worm activities into that. There's a fishing fun field trip where we talk about, we play fishing games and we learn about fish, and we go on a fishing trip that's imaginary, and we learn who eats the fish, and we play fish tag. And the last field trip that I had organized already is called Seed Need, where children explore seeds as food for people and animals and learn how seeds travel. We plant seeds, we share a seedy meal, and we made a seed collage. So there's a lot of fun things you can do with your outdoor programming, and I got all of those ideas. I'll give you my resource for those. There's an organization called the Council for Environmental Education, and they have published a book called Growing Up Wild, Exploring Nature with Young Children. And there are a lot more ideas in that book. Last summer, I developed another series of programs called Nature Play Days. And this was to take, instead of doing story time one month, we did Nature Play Days. And so every Monday the kids would show up, and I had a theme for the Nature Play Days. The themes were rocks and dirt, sink or float, and I incorporated that with the Curious George Rides a Bike book, where he makes a boat out of newspaper. And one day we did force and motion, where we did things like pulley play, pendulum painting, push versus pull. We have a pretend lawnmower and a little child-sized wheelbarrow we utilized. We made ramps and ran cars down them. So another thing I wanted to mention was, just because you're outdoors doesn't mean everything has to be done with nature items. So we had race cars and we built ramps outside. It's my philosophy that getting kids outside to play doesn't have to be just nature-themed programming. And we did an art and color day as part of our nature play days too.
And if I can add, her outdoor play programs, the attendance was probably 3 times that of a normal story time. Anytime she does something outside, we get our normal story time kids, which is small for our branch. We get a lot more of kids in the community and people that are willing to drive out there. I think they don't think they can play outside unless it's an organized group. I don't know. But anything outside we do has huge attendance.
Yeah. We also do special programs. We celebrate Shark Week every July. So we have a big, fun Shark Week day party, kind of a party outdoors. Last year we celebrated National Mud Day.
This was huge.
That was at the end of June. That was incredibly messy, and the parents and the children both loved it. And we had a really good turnout for that. We do a lot of our summer reading program events outside. We have special entertainers that come in. One guy his name is Hedgehog Hannah, but he brings live animals and lets the kids learn and touch and explore these animals. So we did that. As Lori mentioned earlier, we did a winter solstice party in the winter time, and there's a picture of that on the screen.
The first time we did it, we had the carolers, which is the picture on the screen. Last winter solstice, we had a bell choir from a local church. We have a bonfire. We have, kind of some Christmas lights hanging up, and it's just kind of hot chocolate, and it's just a really neat outdoor. It's dark. Kind of it's cold. Thing. The neighborhood people come. It's really neat. You'll also see the Halloween. We did a whole Rushville as a community is huge for trick-or-treating. So we decorated our path with, like the tea lights and the lanterns, and I bet we had 500 kids both years we've done the Halloween, which is crazy, but it's the truth.
One year we had a know your neighbor, get to know your neighbor. There's some kind of, Trina found a national get to know your neighbor day or something. And we had one of our library patrons and his buddy come in and play guitars and sing. And the people sat around and enjoyed getting to know the neighbors. So
that's what's on this slide, but for some reason it's on its side.
Yeah. And then of course we do, every spring we do a little gardening themed story time, a month of story times that have the gardening theme. Last year we called them Little Sprouts, and this year we're calling them Little Seeds. And we have 3 raised beds out in our outdoor classroom. So I planted things to make them like a sensory garden. So the first bed was things to taste, and we had fruits and vegetables planted in that one. And the middle one was things to see and smell, and that was flowers and mostly flowers, bulbs. That one attracted a lot of bees and butterflies, so that was cool. And then the third raised bed was things to touch. So I have things like Dusty Miller, Lamb's Ear. There were a couple different sedum things that were fun to touch. Oh, I put rosemary there. When you touch rosemary, rub it between your fingers, then smell your fingers. It's a very strong rosemary smell. So that was really fun to share with the kids too. We also have a partnership with a local company that has a horseback riding equestrian center, I guess, and she also has other animals, and she's begun bringing her animals to there are different library branches and having an animal-themed story time. So she has brought her little pony out to our outdoor classroom. She's brought the bunny out to the outdoor classroom. So that's really fun to have somebody else come in and do your story time too, and make use of the space. And we also always celebrate Arbor Day because Rusheville is a big supporter of the Arbor Day Foundation, and this year we're going to do a program called Befriend a Tree, where we get to know a special tree and use our 5 senses to interact with that. We're going to celebrate Children's Book Week this year with the book Where the Wild Things Are, and we've called the program Kings and Queens of Wild Things, and we'll be making a crown using the things that we find in nature. So there's just a lot of different ways that you can experience your programs outside, and a lot of different ways that you can think of bringing the kids out and just having fun outside. That seems like more and more these days they aren't spending enough time, quality time outdoors.
We also had an adult yoga class one early morning on a Saturday where we did yoga outside. Mm-hmm. We did an apple festival outside where they had a bunch of different apple activities.
Oh, we did we had a bunch of the maze.
This was a great program. Yeah. We got Bells of Straw, and in the pavilion we did a maze for preschool kids. It was just a couple bells high, so they could see over, but parents could see them, and it had huge attendance. All the little kids come out and they'd go through that maze and they just loved it. So that was something different we did this past fall. The idea is anything you can do inside, you can certainly do outside. And anytime we advertise an outdoor program, we get a lot better attendance. Some of the things that we would like to see still outside, we have some sunshades we've since added. So if people are outside, they have some sunblock. We've added a picnic table and encourage people to come and stay for the day and bring a picnic or sit down and eat. One of the things that we did not think of when we were building our pavilion that have since become a problem, birds, which at first we loved to see the birds nest in our pavilion. And then when the birds hatch and they have poop all over our pavilion, it's not so much fun. So that was one thing. We're getting ready to add some kind of a metal mesh to keep the birds out because it gets pretty dirty and it's not very pleasant when you're trying to do a program. So those are a lot of the things that we do. But any program you can come up with, they just love to be outside. The library and the Nature Explorer classroom was recognized as one of the top 5 stories of 2017 from our local Kokomo Tribune, which was really cool. They did a lot of stories, anytime we had a big activity out there, they covered it. And then when they did the end of the year of 2017 review, we were recognized again. So that was really nice for us. These are some different resources where you can find information on our website, the natureexplore.org website and dimensionsfoundation.org. All are different websites where you can get information about what we do and what a Nature Explore outdoor classroom is. And any other questions?
Yeah, there were a few questions that came in. Do you have more things to talk about, or?
No, that
okay. Okay, that's fine, because we'll probably have some more questions come in. So I just wanted to check on that. So if you do have a question for Susan or Lori, you can go ahead and type that in the question box. One of them is, how big is the outdoor classroom space in terms of footage? Also, is the garden connected to the library, or is it a separate entity? The reason I'm asking is, can you go in and out of the garden from the building, and are there security issues with that?
The library sits on a corner lot, and then we have our parking lot, and then we have our outdoor classroom. So it is connected to the library, but the parking lot is in between the building and the classroom. It does not have any security. Like I said, it's a very small community. We've one time had some vandalism. Some kids broke out. We had these beautiful limestone stepping stones, and they were all broke. And it's the size of community. You call the town hall and you call the town marshal, and they pretty much can guarantee they know who it is, and they talk to a few kids. We haven't had any problems since then. But again, it is a small community. Obviously this wouldn't work in our downtown location. They would have a lot more issues than we do.
And that's one of the reasons why we have the backpacks indoors at the library, the experience backpacks, so that during our hours that we're not operating, there is a sand table out there, but there's no toys. So during our hours of operation, parents can come in and check out the backpack full of sand toys to use outside, but we're not leaving them outside because they would disappear.
And that also gives us a way to help kind of count and drive our traffic, because we don't get the traffic count when they just go to the outdoor classroom. And I would say, you ask about the size. I apologize, I don't have the dimensions with me, but we are in a subdivision, and it's more or less a lot.
It's probably a quarter of an acre.
You know, like a
quarter acre
yeah,
lot.
It's not very big. We crammed a lot into the lot. And when we send you our slides, I'll see if I can't find the actual dimensions and send that to you also. But it's a subdivision lot. It's a house sits on it.
Right.
Okay. Another question. I'm curious on what you did to make the space ADA compliant, or what types of things that you did for that.
The pathway is a refined gravel that is ADA compliant. There's no steps to get on it, and then the wheelchair it's supposed to be able to glide on this rock. We don't have a lot of, I know strollers seem to go okay on it. Mm-hmm. Most of the stuff they can, you could wheel up to or walk up to, but the pathway is ADA compliant, and there are no bound, it's flat from the parking lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Could you talk a little bit about your marketing efforts with this? Were there things, or how did you get the word out to the community, or did you have to do a lot of special marketing with this, or were people just excited about it? Were people noticing it, or what types of things did you do to get the word out?
The town of Rushville is small enough that the second you start building on it, non-library users were coming in wanting to know what we were doing. So for the town of Rushville, it was not hard to market it at all. We went to town board meetings. They advertised it on their marquee out front. It's a small community, so it was really talked about. The library as a whole, and to get our other, patrons in our library, we do a newsletter quarterly. And so we advertise all of our programs in that newsletter, and the Nature Explorer has a logo. So any program that was in that Nature Explorer classroom she would add our graphics artist would add that logo. So at a glance, you could see the Nature Explorer logo. So that kind of helped. There were lots of newspaper articles and lots of marketing in-house.
We take a lot of pictures and we forward those to our marketing person, and she puts them on all the social media websites as well.
And it's a lot of word of mouth. Anytime we have young children in the library and they're checking out, we always say, have you been to our outdoor classroom in Rougeaville? Because from the branch where, the South Branch, it's about a 10-minute drive. From our downtown library, it's about a 15-minute drive. It's a very small rural community, so people think it's further away than it really is. So we try to encourage them, hey, you've got little kids, this is a great resource. And a lot of them end up going out there and really appreciate the fact that we told them. But as far as the local community, the town of Rougeaville, it's so small, we didn't really have to do anything to promote it within it.
Great. You mentioned that, just I guess as libraries in general, that we should consider programming that we do outdoors shouldn't always have to have an outdoorsy theme. So have you, since you've had this this space and this resource, have you found yourself, or has the library found itself just doing more programming in general outside and in this space, even if it had nothing or not as much to do even with nature?
We certainly at the Rougeaville in the classroom have done a lot more outdoor programming, but at the South Branch, we are also sort of rural. We have a 2-acre lot adjacent to our parking lot, and last summer one of our goals was to do more outdoor programming. So we did, a water kickball game, and we did different types of water things. We did tents outside, and we read in tents for Children's Book Week. So even at this branch, we tried to do more outdoor things. Our main library, which is downtown, is in the process of trying to come up with some type of a permanent outdoor activity space where they can do something all the time. When we're, so when we're not open, people could still come and enjoy it. But as far as programming in that particular space, if it's nice out, we're doing it outside.
Great. Another question is, does it cost anything to get the Nature Explorer certification?
I think the cost was minimal. Might have been $50.
I think it was a $50, and they send you a nice little certificate that says you were, once you met all the criteria, you get a little certificate, and then we renew it every year. Because again, that was important to us to kind of have that credibility and the recognition, because we are on their website. I believe we are the only library in Indiana. Are we still? We were when we built it. We were the only library in Indiana to have one. I believe there's a couple more coming into play now, and that was kind of a big thing for us. Kokomo's the city of first. That's one of our little taglines. So that was kind of neat for Rougeaville to have, like the first one at a public library. But I believe more have sprung up since then.
Great. And finally, do you have any advice for small libraries in Wisconsin who are looking? We have a lot of small and rural libraries, and especially in nature type touristy areas. So if they're listening in and thinking about this, what advice do you have? Where do you start with something like this?
Well, first of all, I don't think you have to do anything big. I mean, you can start by just taking whatever you're doing inside out. You can start by just thinking of different programs that would get the kids outside, and all those kind of messy things that you're afraid to do indoors. Now is your perfect opportunity to do those outside. And then
just a nature walk. You do a nature walk. You pick up leaves. If you're lucky enough to have a small space, our space is not that large. It really isn't. It's a city lot. It's not that big, and we've crammed a lot into it. If you don't care about being certified per se, then you can, you don't have to have the music outside. You could take whatever musical things. We have a pile of branches and, sticks out there. We have, the tree cookies out there. Anything just to get kids something to climb on, to walk on, to think about, to plant. When you plant your garden at home, you don't let your kids run out and touch all the plants because we don't want them to tear them up. We don't care if we don't want them to pull them out of the ground, but it's okay. We want them to touch the stuff. And I think that's the thing. You need to just get them outside.
And we probably wouldn't have even attempted this if we thought it was going to cost $80,000.
Oh, no, yeah, we went around about it all wrong. I will admit that. But I think if we'd have thought it through, we would have never done it.
Right.
I really
So
think that. I think we
don't
just
think
did
that
it.
you have to start out with, an $80,000 landscaping plan. Think about what you have and what you can start with, and think about how it can maybe grow over time, and that you can, get donations and funding over time. You don't have to start out like we did.
Yeah, but you can, if somebody's cutting trees, ask them for some slices of the tree. The tree cookies is what we call them. I don't know if that's universal, but ask them, can we have some of your tree? Someone donated a bunch to us. I mean, a lot. Once you start doing it and your community sees you're doing it, they get so involved and they want to help. And somebody may have this expertise in that or this. We had a bunch of birdhouses given to us, so we had a panel where we just have, I bet, 20 different painted birdhouses we just hung up. One of our ideas that we want to add is an ant farm. We'd like to add an ant farm out there. We just haven't got it finalized yet. But if you can have a bed they can dig in and look at worms. What in the bottom of our sandbox, we put a bunch of like petrified dinosaurs and rocks and different things. So when they dig, they have stuff to find. Just giving kids a time. The International Mud Day, they literally played in mud. We had kids swimming pools, like the little kiddie pools, full of mud and dirt. They slid down the tunnel hill. We had tarps down with mud and water. You'd have thought we were spent $1 million on this program, the feedback and the excitement, and they can't wait for next year. And it was just a really big deal because parents don't let their kids go play in the mud.
Right. So speaking of that and animals, do you have any issues with sand and animals in the area? I mean, is the area covered unless it's open, or how has that been?
Go ahead.
Yeah, our sandbox is a raised sandbox, and we do have a lid that we put over it overnight that keeps out the animals and stuff like that. So it has not been a problem. And even in my raised garden beds, I was surprised that we didn't have the local bunny rabbits come and eat out of it. They did. I guess they can't hop up that high, but they didn't.
We've not had any major issues, but again, it is a rural small town.
All right. Excellent. Well, I think that's all the questions that have come in.
I will add this. One of the other things we did to help promote it is our library purchased T-shirts for the entire staff. It was a brown T-shirt that just says Nature Explore Outdoor Classroom, and it's got the sponsors on the back. And staff can wear those anytime they want. And that's something our library started trying to do, is any big event, buy a T-shirt and promote the event, and then staff can wear a T-shirt to work, so they wear it more than they would otherwise. So that's helped a lot, but that was one of our big marketing campaigns that we did.
That is awesome. Well, Susan and Lori, thank you so much for an excellent presentation and for all of this terrific information. I want to thank you again for taking the time to speak to us about this today. And I want to thank all of you who participated and asked all the questions. And and if you have follow-up questions for either Lori or Susan, you can relay those to me and I can get those to them. We will be sharing the slides and the recording probably by tomorrow up on the WVLS website. So again, thank you, Susan. Thank you, Lori. Thank you all for listening in. I hope you all have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. So long.